Hey friends, so it's been about a week since I got back from the mission trip, which I know many of you followed on my Facebook. Um, and I just wanted to sit down and kind of go over like the entire mission trip with you, in case some of you I don't get to see in person. So this video is going to be really long. I've got 11 days to unpack. Um, Lots of notes. So, um, thank you for following me, for supporting me, whether you donated money or you prayed or bought something for me. I could not have done this mission trip without you, and I am so grateful. I know while we were there, I was asking for many prayers as well, and you all were quick to jump in and pray, and for that, again, I thank you so much. So, let's start off. It all started day one on the 15th, and we arrived at the airport, I want to say like 5 a.m. Crazy hour. But it was fun. We all hung out. Um, then we were getting ready to go, and we stood by, if you're familiar with Fresno International Airport, or FYI, there's like sequoia trees all in the lobby. And so we all stood around there to go take like a picture, or a video. Yeah, picture. And just then the person who was taking the photo, it was Maddie's dad, I think, said, "Hey, we've got some groupies behind us." And we looked, and it was my friend Katrina and Samantha. They came and surprised me with like these big poster boards, and it told us all good luck on the trip, and that they're gonna miss me and miss us, and all the things. It was super sweet. I actually cried. I'm not a big crier, but I did lose a tear or two because it just really warmed my heart, because they had been there for like a long time waiting for us to go. And Caston was like asleep, Katrina's little guy. But they were troopers and they were great friends. So thank you, my friends. So from the moment we left Fresno to the time we checked into our hotel room was about 30 hours. And that spanned from July 15th to 16th. And that's because we're losing, Kenya is 10 hours ahead of us here. So 30 hours equal 24 or 48. I don't do the math. Anyhow, a lot of fun. We went from Fresno to San Fran. And when we got to San Fran, we had like a 5-hour layover, which was actually not bad because I got to hang out with a few of the girls and really got to know them better, which helped make the trip better. We went and found like a Vietnamese place to eat. We went shopping. Well, we didn't buy anything because when you go on a mission trip, we as in Cross City has us just take one carry-on, which is Lufthansa or whatever the airline we were. The carry-on luggages are pretty small, so you get a carry-on luggage and a backpack. And luckily for me, because I need my CPAP, I got to take my CPAP too. So whereas everybody else only had 2, I had 3. But my CPAP bag is not big. But anyhow, where was I going with that? I don't remember. But that's why we didn't buy anything, because we did not have room in our bags to put extra stuff. I did find we found this really cute bookstore and just had a blast in there. But anyhow, so we arrive at the hotel. It's gorgeous. It's nice. Cross City really took care of us, getting us a nice hotel. And Saul, who is the head of His Little Feet Global Community Center in Kenya, he helped Nick and the team last time find this hotel, and it's a nice hotel. It's not in a bad, okay, it's not in a good part of town, but it is like very secured with security guards and walls and all the things. So it was really nice. So the next morning we wake up, so technically we're on day 3. Every morning we met as a group and had breakfast, and during breakfast, one group, it was usually like 2 people, were to give a morning devotional, and there was no guidelines, just do a devotional. And so that morning we had done our devotionals, and then I had gone back to the room, or it was before we did devotionals. Anyhow, I was trying to get a hold of my family, and I had signed up for the international plan, and nothing was working. I was turning my phone off, on. I couldn't text, I couldn't call, I couldn't do anything. And I honestly started to like freak out because I knew that my husband and my boys would be okay with me not being home. But I knew Bailey was really going to have a hard time not talking to me. And I wanted to talk to my family too, but I couldn't get it to work. And I'm having to, like, because the hotel had Wi-Fi, I was able to like get on Facebook and do like a face-to-face with Bailey on Facebook. Was I able to text? Yeah, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But the whole thing where I'm going with this is that I really freaked out, and it was consuming my thoughts. And I know it was before devotional. And I'm like, Scott, you got to take care of this. I don't know what to do. You got to call, blah, blah, blah. And the next thing I know, I was praying about it, and I'm like, God, this is taking over my thoughts, my everything. This is not what it's about. Can you please just take the stress from me? And I prayed, and I let it go. And then I was talking to Wendy Torres was my roommate, and I told her, I'm like, hey, this is going on, I'm really stressed. And she had said, maybe that's God's way of telling you to just like let it go and give it to him. So everything I was feeling was exactly what Wendy said, and so I knew that it was a God thing. So the next thing I know, I'm like, you know what? I've done everything Scott told me to do, everything T-Mobile told me to do. So I turned off my phone, turned it back on. It worked. Total God thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. I just wanted to share that like the start of the trip, I could already see God working in me, to just not stress out about things and to give it to him. So we left the hotel to go to the His Little Feet Community Center. And let me tell you, LA drivers have nothing on Nairobi drivers. So they have buses, and the buses, if you see them, they're like not very big, but if you look, like the seats are super close to each other, and the people are all squeezed in there, and that's how they're getting to and from their jobs or whatever. So there's buses galore, cars galore, and motorcycles with the driver and usually one person on the back, and they're just like, I forgot what they call it here in the States, where they like lane hop or whatever. It was crazy. Like merging. We didn't hit blinkers, we didn't use blinkers, we didn't do nothing, and I do not know how there were no car accidents. We saw one little one. But it was insane. The things you see on TV, that's it. So, we arrived at His Little Feet, and it's, what it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a big building, and it used to be part of a school, and the school allowed His Little Feet to rent this one room, and they blessed His Little Feet with not charging them too much for the rent. Saul's the head, and his wife is Shelby. Saul said that location would be like super, super, super expensive, and so they're really blessed that they gave it to them at a lower rate, and that they're able to get some funds to help with that. But we went there, and we went over like an orientation of what His Little Feet is about. And what His Little Feet is so those of us at Cross City have seen the His Little Feet kids come and perform at our church. And it's not just Kenya. There's actually like quite a few, I want to say there's like 6 different countries that come together to go around and perform for His Little Feet. And sorry, my brain, when I started getting into my head, sorry. So once they finish with His Little Feet, they've grown up. Their family has now qualified for help from the His Little Feet organization, and that helps with medical for the family and the kids, education for the kids. They're also able to like borrow money from the His Little Feet program to better enhance their jobs, which I'll get at in a bit. And so His Little Feet really supports the family after the kids have performed. So you have to have been a performer in order to get all these extra good things. I can't think of what the word is, but anyhow, you understand. Benefits. That's the word. So there are other ways that they help the community. That's not necessarily monetary. So, like for instance, we had I'm gonna get to that in a couple days, but we had like a meeting where a bunch of kids came in. Kids, by kids I mean like 20s, 30s, and they provided them with tickets to take the bus back home or however to get home. So they help them out. So anyhow, so we go to His Little Feet, we get the orientation, and then we hop on the bus and we head to the slums. The slums. It wasn't what I expected. It's not bad, it's not worse, it's not better. It's just, I think in my mind, I thought they were going to be even more closed in, and it was more open, which still, it wasn't a lot open. It just wasn't as open. But I will say though, to get to some of the houses, you have to like go through these really narrow, like not even alleys, it's just houses stacked on each other, kind of, or not stacked, but really close to one another. And you have to go through these narrow ways, and most of their homes are that aluminum siding or that steel siding, that kind of has the waves that's usually on the roofs. Those are like the sides of the houses, and a lot of them are destroyed and they're rusted and they're coming down. And we were going through it one time and I actually caught it. Luckily, just my sleeve caught it, and it didn't damage my sleeve, and it definitely didn't damage me, but it just goes to show how scary it was, and it was all rusty. So, I mean, thankfully I got my tetanus before I left, so I would have been okay, but these people don't have medical, and so that's kind of scary. The streets are all made of dirt, and then the houses, are on the sides, and then they have these little gutters, is what I'm gonna call it, but it's like in the dirt, it goes in, and that's where like the water from the rains or whatever can flow through. But these gutters have like trash, and one of them, I don't know if you go back and you look at my pictures of the slums, I did show one photo where you can see water coming down the gutter and then like kind of going over a little lip and then down into another gutter, and the water is like this clearish, whitish, murky-ish. And I was just really sad because it just goes to show that the water is not good, not healthy. The houses are about the size of one of our smaller rooms, so maybe like 12 by 12, and they fit. Some of the houses have like 5 people living in there. That's like the mom, dad, and all the kids. Or actually, a lot of the people we met are the grandma and grandpa taking care of the parents' kids, or their kids, so their grandkids, excuse me. And that's that many people living in there, And here we are in our homes thinking that they're super tiny with our families, and our smallest apartments are mansions compared to these places. While you're there, there's like dogs walking everywhere, to which one of His Little Feet has, I believe, 5 employees. Saul, Shelby, Monica, Mary. I thought there was one more. I can't remember the name if so. Pudo. So, Monica taught me that the dogs that are running around, their little names are called Simba. So my little Disney heart was happy. You were not to touch them because, like, one of the dogs I saw, he's just totally laid there, but he had like mangy stuff on his ears, and it was just so sad. Um, and then random goats walking around, random sheep, um, and people taking care of them, whatever. So we went and we visited one of the houses. Oh, when you go to Kenya, when you're in Kenya, you give gifts. Whenever you go to someone's house, you give a gift. And so Cross City had pre-purchased, and his little feet put it together for us, gift bags that had rice, flour, cooking oil, and a couple other things, I believe. I don't remember what was in there. But so we would go to the homes, and we were visiting the family, 6 families of 6 of the kids who were in the program. The first house we went to, the lady was super nice. Her job that she does is she gets fish, buys fish, cooks it up on the side of the road, and then sells it to people. And she happened to have 2 finished like fish in her house, and she fully offered it to us to eat. And it's just like, it was amazing because that's how she makes her money, and she was willing to give it to us. And these people didn't go to work that day, they waited for us to come. And so I felt really honored that they gave up all that for us. And then she wanted to give us the fish, which looked really good. So we went to a few houses. One lady actually had just gotten a big package, and we opened it up, or this one guy, Brian, helped us open it up, and it was like all kinds of bras, and the lady takes those and sells them to the ladies on the street as well. Another house we went to, the lady took bags. I don't know what kind of bag it's. I don't know the proper name of the bag. But if you go back and you look at my slum pictures, there's a photo of me and a lady, and I'm holding a bag. You can kind of see what the bag is. But anyhow, she takes these bags that they use to have food, like bags of rice, bulk bags, and she takes them apart, and then sews them and makes bags, like sturdy bags, for people. And then she also takes them and sews them up, and then she makes like, they go along the walls in their houses so that their houses have more of a homey feel, and don't look like it's just wood and, not pretty. She pretties it up. But we came out of one of the houses, and we had already had a guy named Brian, who I just had so much fun hanging out with him. Brian was our security. We were told that we needed to have security while we're walking around. So Brian was our security. Well, we walk out of one of the houses, and there's like 3 guys. I don't know. We've never seen them. One guy has a stick, and the cop and me like started not freaking, because I didn't freak, but I was kind of like, what's going on? Why are you there? Why do you have a stick, and why are you close to us? Come to find out that he was also hired. Those 3 guys were also hired as security guards. So when you're in the slums, if you are not from that slum, and there's many different ones, if you are not from that slum and you go in there without someone who lives in that slum, you are more apt to become a victim of a crime. And so his little feet hired Brian and those 3 other guys who are Brian is part of his little feet as a volunteer. So they hired Brian and those other guys to come and walk with us to be our security guards. If you look at my pictures, you will see there's a photo of me and Brian. It just so happened that he is a baker, and he has a storefront in front of his house. We did not get to visit his house, but I thought it was kind of cool that he's a baker and that he was doing that also, and then helping with us. As we walk around, the adults were leery. You could see that they were kind of like, what are you doing here? And I get it, because if I'm living there and I see a bunch of people not like me walking around, I would kind of feel like, what are they here to watch me? Am I on display? I get it. And they don't know necessarily that we're there to go give food and, to see to see the families, and but the kids, oh, the kids had so much joy. They were walking down the street, and like the boys would just put their arms around each other and walk around and laugh, and they had like a game where they had like a milk jug, and there's a rope attached to it, and the kid would kick it, and then the other kid would bring it back or something, or try and get it from. Anyhow, it was a fun game that they played with just a milk jug and rope. But the kids were so happy, and Kevin Arnold was taking pictures and video footage, and the little kids would just come run up and like ham it up for the pictures. And then Kevin took his camera and like flipped it around so the kids could see what they looked like in the video, or the pictures, and they all were just hamming it up even more. And then one time Kevin like leaned down and got lower so that he was at the kids level so they could see the camera, and then they went lower, and then Kevin went lower, and then they went lower, to the point like they all were on the ground. It was so funny. I will tell you one thing that did break my heart. So the whole slum thing did break my heart. However, I noticed the joy that was going on within the kids, and so that brought me joy, because I saw how they had it bad, but they were finding happiness. But we did walk down when we first walked in, and there was like an open door to a house, and there were 4 babies, and literally they were in a year and a half. I don't even think they were 2, barely standing up. And there were 4 of them, and 2 of them were crying, one really hard and the other one a little bit. But one of the other babies came up, and he was just patting them, like consoling his friend. And my heart broke. I'm like, where's the parents? Why are these kids here by themselves crying? Why is no one taking care of them? And who knows? I mean, kids were running around everywhere without parents. It's just a different culture. And that really did break my heart. But here I'm thinking the kid is like, having something really bad go wrong with him. Comes to find out, one of the other kids walked up and kicked him in the butt, and he was crying. So, I mean, I still felt sad that he was crying, but it wasn't as heartbreaking as I had originally thought. That evening we went to Saul and Shelby's house, and they had people come in and make us like nice, authentic Kenyan food. It was all really good. There was one I tried that was beetroot and mango, I think. I'm like, I'm gonna try it. Not my favorite thing, but it was good. Saul brought out his guitar, and it was all of us on our mission trip, and then Mary, Monica, Puto. I think Puto's wife was there. So it was a bunch of people in their house, which their house was nice and large compared to the slum houses. But it was still a nice size house, like one of our apartment size houses. But it was great because we started playing worship music, and Shelby like put the words up on their TV screen so we could sing along with it. But then like Saul sang some in Swahili, and it was just nice because it was just so intimate and so calm and quiet and beautiful that I really felt the Holy Spirit in that room. Sadly, Maddie got sick that night. She was in the bathroom not doing well. Her tummy was just so upset. So we left, and we went back to the hotel and got some rest for the next day. The next day, we went back to his little feet, and that was our service day. So what we did was we went and we pulled out their carpet, because their carpet was like this light blue, and you could see all the stains on it. So we pulled everything out of the room, pulled out the carpet, and then we laid down carpet tiles so that way if something happened, they could just pull it up easy and switch it out. But it was black. And it was kind of cool because they have like these lines on it. So then we kind of switched it so every other one, so it kind of had a pretty pattern to it. We had to lay down like carpet tack contact stuff. Whew. I swear, I know it got to me a couple times because it was really strong. But some of us were doing that. A good chunk of us were doing that because that took a lot. And then Leonard, because he does construction stuff, he was helping some Kenyan construction people create this shoe rack that attached to their wall, because in Kenya you don't wear your shoes into homes, or into that kind of place. So it was great. So all the shoes weren't just thrown in a corner, they all were nicely put on a shoe rack. So Leonard and some people were working on that, and then towards the end of the day, we just needed to finish putting a top on a big table for them, and that took quite a good chunk of the day. I think we were supposed to be done by 3, and we were there till 5, which I'm not complaining, I'm just stating. While we were there, they had Christian music playing, mostly Phil Wickham, because Saul loves Phil Wickham. But I believe the song is called The Father's House by Corey Asbury, came on, and I remember just, I was sitting there waiting for like the next part for me to move in and help, because they were measuring, and I could just hear like faintly people lightly singing along to it, and it was just so beautiful. So then we went back to the hotel, had dinner, and then the next morning, day 5, we woke up, and that was the safari day, and that was a lot of fun. It was safari and hanging out with some of the adult volunteers, and the safari was fun. We only got to see one lion, and then there was a bunch of gazelles, and we saw the lion totally take off after the gazelles, and we're like, circle of life. Okay, I was like, we're gonna see the circle of life, but it didn't happen. He didn't, for some reason, he just let it go. Scott said that he believes, because of the way I showed the pictures, that it was like a juvenile that was by itself, so who knows why he just let it go. But then we saw like a bunch of ostriches and giraffes. Those were like the big things we saw. If you saw my pictures, you see like here like a water buffalo or a rhino. There was a water buffalo, and he had like a bird on it, which is like totally indicative of what you see in the movies, right? Or at least Lion King. And it was really cool. But in the background you can see the cityscape. Well, it wasn't the kind of safari we all thought we were going on, but it wasn't bad, and we're not complaining. It just wasn't like what we thought we were going to have, because you see like the total cityscape while you're looking for these wild animals. But it was still super cool, and I guess what happens is that it's a national park, and so it does open up into open, I'm going to call it savanna, I don't know, the open area where the animals can go. But as it comes into the city, they created a wall to keep the animals within that area, so they couldn't just come into the city and start, killing people. So that's why we were able to see the city and be in there. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. We saw like baboons. I'm like, hey, there's a monkey. And the driver's like, it's a baboon. My bad. And it was so cute. One little ran by, and you could see the baby monkey like just holding on for dear life to the mama or daddy monkey baboon. That was super fun. But then we finished, and that night we went to meet with the His Little Feet volunteers at this really yummy restaurant, and it was great because we all separated, so we weren't sitting near each other, so that we could sit and intermingle with the His Little Feet people. And this one kid, Judea, I think he was in his mid-20s, and he has the best smile, the best disposition, and he was talking to Emily, and they were talking about a song, and then he's like, yeah, let it go, or be free, or something. I don't remember what he said, but it ends up that what he was saying was part of a TikTok trend that's going on in Kenya right now, where they play this song and they do this certain dance to it. So me, I love to dance, I love to be crazy. I started doing the dance with him. Super fun. So he taught it to me, and I did it a couple times in the restaurant like the total dork I am, and I'm like, we gotta do the TikTok. So after dinner, we all went to a bowling alley and split up, so that there was some of Cross City and some of the His Little Feet all intermingled in teams. And so we stopped and did the dance, like right when we walked in, and then we had to like get our shoes, and then we did the dance again later on. And it was a lot of fun. We all were bowling. I was kind of starting to feel a little icky, but I think we all were just purely exhausted. Um, and these kids, I mean, like kids, 20, 30s, they were just so full of life, so full of joy that like they went off behind like the alley and then the seats and then right behind, and they were playing their music and they were dancing and having fun, and like even in the other lanes of people that weren't with us, they were dancing and having fun. It was just pure joy. um, and then they all, that song came on and they all called me over to dance with them, and that just warmed my heart because they included me. um, and so that was a whole lot of fun. um, One of the kids that was there, his name is Vincent, and he actually was one of the kids that came. I don't know if he ever came to Cross City, but there was two kids that were part of his Little Feat going around and performing. So that was kind of cool to see how he had grown up. And he's actually in college right now, business degree, I think. So that was super fun. Nick could tell that we all were like just dead. We were supposed to do 2 games of bowling, and we were just so exhausted that he was like, let's just go halfway through the second game, because he could tell we all were just tapped out. The next morning was day 6, and that was our spiritual leadership day. In his Little Feat, the building is not very big, and they fit like at least 65 people in there, and then us 15, and it was great. We played, Saul and Nick, each individually played songs on their guitars. And then Brian had come back, and I was just so happy to see him because he became like my little buddy. And we were dancing, or they started singing this one song that like they do in Kenya, and it was English, but you like dance, and you go bop, 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 and then you dance some more, and then bop, 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 and then there's another part where you kind of like start turning in circles, and then turning in circles again, and then the bop, 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 and it was so much fun. But I was really starting to feel sick, like I had the cold. I wasn't sick like Maddie. Oh, and Jared had gotten sick now, and he was really bad. He had like the 103 temperature, the aches, everything. I mean, he had it bad. And Maddie was better by now. We think Maddie was just dehydrated day 1. Jared was so sick he was not there for Safari Day and bowling. And he didn't come to the empowerment meeting either. So, but we're doing these spinning, and I'm like, dude, okay, I'm chubby, I'm out of shape, and I'm not feeling good, and we keep spinning in circles. It was so much fun, but I was like done. But it was a lot of fun. Nick and Leonard started out with their portion. Very moving, very good, very helpful. Then we had a lunch break, and it was great. Brian's like, Vash, when he first arrived, he's like, hey, I brought you something special. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. Well, he had brought like a big bowl of muffins for everybody, and then he called me over and he gave me like a special muffin that was in a Ziploc baggie, and there was like maybe a dozen in there. And he's like, here, and he gave it to me, and it was a pina colada flavored muffin, and it was so good. And then a few of their friends were like, why did she get something? And so then they wanted them too, and so he shared with some other people. But that made me feel really good that he remembered me, and that he was so happy, and that he cared and made me a special muffin. It was really cool. I had asked, I think when we were bowling, I noticed that all the Kenyans wore bracelets that had the Kenyan flag, and like a good chunk of them had them, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Well, then when we were at dinner, I noticed that Monica had one, and it had like a nickname on it for her, and she had said that Vincent made it, and so I had asked Vincent at bowling if he would make me one, and he said sure. So at the empowerment meeting, he brought me one, and so this is it. And then let me spin it. He put my name on it. Isn't that cool? So I had told him that it needed to be bigger than theirs because I have bigger wrists. And he's like, yeah, Americans are bigger than Kenyans, so I'll make it bigger. But it was still so small that I couldn't get it on, and I felt really bad. But when I went to the hotel that night, I lathered my hand up with soap, and they had all told me to do that, and I got it on, and this bad boy's not coming off. So that was super kind. At lunch that day, some of the participants, like the kids that had gone through the program, the His Little Feet program, our church had given them money to make us lunch, and it was so nice. Again, it was, I don't remember what it was, a stew? I don't remember, but I do remember that one of them had made rice, and like rice is like the big thing, and if rice is there, everybody's gonna take it. So Shelby took it into the back room and then called all of us in there, and then let us have the rice. But it was definitely something like you see out of the Kenyan stuff, because it was in a big bowl, a big pot, and then we had a small bowl, and we scooped the rice out with the small bowl. That was kind of cool. Again, I had said I was starting to feel sick. Owen started to feel sick, and at this point Cecilia had what Jared had, and she was down for the count. The next day was church, and we went into it's Puto's church, and we went in there, and they broke us up into little groups, and we went, like, some taught with little kids. Maddie and I forgot, Hallie I think was with her, and they go into a room and they're like, okay, teach, and they're like, what? Okay, and they had no idea, so they just winged it. My group, it was Wendolyn, myself, and Cecilia, and they were going over like an actual Bible study, and it was really nice because I tried not to be fearful, and I like joined in the conversation, and the guy that was leading it was super nice. And people would come in late because the Bible study happens before church service. But it was really neat. And so after the Bible study, we went down, because there was like 4 floors. We went back down to the first floor, to which they had already started singing worship songs. I mean, it was a gal leading, and then like quite a few people behind her, and she sang that for quite a while. But then once it got really packed, a guy came in and he started singing, and he had the most beautiful voice. And some of the songs were in English, but then some of them were in Swahili, and there was one I think I took notes somewhere about what it meant, but it was just so beautiful that I could feel the Holy Spirit moving, and I felt the Holy Spirit around me and within me, and it was really cool, because here I don't understand, but I know that they're worshiping our God, and it was really neat to experience that. I guess they did the announcements and some of the songs in English specifically because we were there. We didn't stay for the whole service because I guess our services go really long, and it was going to be in Swahili and we wouldn't have understood it, so we did not stay for that. When we were leaving, there was this cute little girl that was kind of like watching, and Wendy saw that she had a jump rope, and so she started jump roping with her, and then Mary jumped in and started helping, and so then like Wendy and Mary were spinning the rope, and then Monica and the little girl started doing like double dutch stuff. It was so cute. It was fun. Cecilia was still feeling pretty sick, and then we headed to the airport. One thing I wanted to talk about before I forget about Nairobi. So the government is making it really difficult for the people to live. They tell them to go to college and get degrees and get a job to get out of the slums. And so, you know, some of these kids are lucky and are able to do that. But then once they get out and they go to get a job, the government taxes them so much that they're hardly making anything. And of course, they can't pay back their college tuitions. And it's really hard for the parents. And mostly the parents are staying back with their siblings, or it's so what I gathered is it's the young adults who are really having a hard time. They're trying to make Kenya better and to better themselves, but the government is making it so difficult for them. Um, like I said, that they're taking taxes. The taxes are higher, pays lower. So the young adults would go out on Tuesdays and Thursdays and protest. And it's pretty calm for the most part. And his little feet made sure we were nowhere near where any of the protests would have been. But it breaks my heart that here they're trying to do good and the government's not helping. So that was really sad. So be in prayer for that, for Kenya, that the president makes some changes. When we arrived, he had eliminated all of his cabinet, and then they were calling for his resignation. So since I've been home, I don't know what happened. I haven't followed up because I came home, I slept, and then my family went on vacation, and here we are. So after church, we went to the airport, and we got a plane and went to Eldoret. And I get off the plane at Eldoret, and it is just green. Oh, in Nairobi, not only was there a lot of cars, there was a lot of they definitely don't believe in smogging. Like, we were driving to the hotel one night, and it was just so hard to breathe because of the exhaust from everything. Graffiti everywhere, people walking down the middle of the freeway trying to sell you stuff. Two things that stuck out that they were trying to sell was windshield wipers, and then a whiteboard, just dry erase boards. It was kind of funny. So we went to Eldoret, and Eldoret is just green and luscious and beautiful. And we get on the bus and we head over to Stand By Me, and I can see that the ground is that rich red dirt that that is part of Africa, and that was really neat to see. So we come off the main road, we travel down this long dirt road, and we come to Stand By Me, and we pull up, and there's, it's blocked in, it's secured as well, and a security guard is checking us in, and he said, "Welcome home." And I just thought, that was so cool, how hospitable, and that just made my heart so happy, and I felt so welcome there. So our bus pulls in, and you can see like the school's like right there, and there's kids outside playing, because I think by the time we got there, school was out, so it was the kids just playing and enjoying life. But they all were so happy and like waving, and were so excited to see us. It was amazing. So that night we went down to our rooms and got ready, and the staff of His Little Feet made us dinner. Every night they made us dinner and lunch, but in the mornings our team had to make breakfast, which the gals that did breakfast and the guys that did breakfast was like so good. So we went down, and then we came back up that night, and then we had our orientation for Stand By Me. And Stand By Me is an orphanage in Eldoret, and it is for kids who have been sexually abused, physically abused, neglected, or there's one little girl, her name is Esther. They found her, she's like a baby. They found her wrapped in clothes near a school crying. Someone heard crying, and they went and unwrapped the clothes, and there was the baby. And so Esther is now with Stand By Me, and she has no family. Kenyans, if they have if they're like raped or they have sex before marriage and they get pregnant, it's like really bad for them to have kids, so they abandon the kids. It's really sad. So Stand By Me is one of the places that will take in these kids and take care of them. But we did find out, sadly, that there is a Department of Child Services that is in charge of the orphanages, and they have decided that because some of the orphanages have taken advantage of the system, that they're just shutting them down. They're not going to give them money anymore. And so that means these places that have taken all these kids who are not wanted or not taken care of, they're going to take them and put them back into the homes in which they came. The lady at Stand By Me was saying that they are working. The government originally gave them 10 years. It's been 2 years. So Stand By Me has 8 years to figure out how they're going to integrate these kids back into their homes. The director did say that they've got it figured out, and they'll be doing checkup on the kids and stuff. But having been a child abuse and sex assault detective, it just scares me and makes me so sad, because they have to put the kids back into the situation that they took them from, and it's just gonna be worse, a lot worse. And then sadly, we can't adopt kids from Kenya, so it's not like I can go in and grab a kiddo and bring them home, even though I really wanted to. So yeah, that was tough. The next day we went to bed. Cecilia, or that night we went to bed. The next day we got up. Cecilia was still feeling pretty sick, so she was down for the count. I was feeling worse. I never took my temperature, but I'm pretty sure I had a fever, because I could feel myself get like really, really hot and sweaty for no reason, and then go away and then come back. But I wanted to be a part of it. So first I was in a kindergarten class with Gwendolyn and Emily. I think it was just us three. And it was so much fun. Gwendolyn taught this really cute story on Daniel and the Lion's Den. And then we did a craft with the kids, and so there ended up being more kids than there were crafts that we had. And so like just a couple kids had to share. But again, they were so joyful that they got to do something. They weren't mad or throwing a fit that they had to share with someone else. It was just the joy. The joy is just amazing. And then there's the cutest thing, because we would ask questions and the kids would answer, and then they would do this little song, and while they're singing, the kids would be like, yeah. I have a video of it. It is hysterical. Go back and look. And then like they did it for Gwendolyn, because she did such a good job teaching, and she was adorable. And then when we were done, they had a little few minutes left, and so the teacher said that they had been working on like these skits, and so they were going to work on it, and we were allowed to stay and watch it. And it was where God tells Moses to take his stick and to drop it on the ground, and then the stick becomes a snake, and then he's told to pick it up. The skit starts, and there's like these little kids walking in like on their hands and knees, so they were like the sheep. And then Moses comes in with a little, and the kid actually had a little stick, and he walks in with that, and then there's another kid in the back playing God. I swear this little kid that was Moses deserved an Academy Award, because like when he had to go pick up the stick, he was like, oh, I mean, he was like hammed it up. And the kid that played God, his voice was like nice and loud, but it was super sweet. Then we had the 2nd through 4th graders, and I wanted to so the kinder and first grades, we were broken up into 3 groups, but then 2nd through 4th, it was one big class. And so I went and sat amongst the kids, and at first they were kind of shy, but then they really opened up, and because I play and had fun with them. And this one little girl in front of me, she was just so precious. She would turn around and look at me, and I kind of like petted her arm or whatever, and then she grabbed my hand and then would just like trace my hand and my fingers, and then do this and just pet me, and like saw my moles and looked, and she was just fascinated by my whiteness, and who I was. I'm not someone she normally sees, but she was just, again, so full of joy and wonderment and curiosity, and so adorable. And then all of a sudden, some of the other kids came up and they started like touching my hair, so I took my hair out of the pony so they all could play with it, because they're not used to seeing hair like this. And that was super sweet. And then a little bit later, I think we had lunch or something, but then we had the 5th through the 8th graders, and they were totally reserved, like totally reserved. And but Saul was singing songs with him, and so I saw this one girl that I kind of made contact with, and I went and sat next to her, and I just kept nudging her and and she started to engage, and the other kids were kind of like laughing because I was engaging her, and they didn't know what to think of me. And then we did that fun song where we spun around and clapped, and we had to change partners, and it was fun because then the kids wanted to, partner up with me. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. And then we had time to go to the baby home, and that's where, like I told you, the abandoned babies were. And I got to see little Esther. We had learned about her before we went. And so I got to see her and another little dude named Titus, and he was wrapped up so thick. He reminded me of Randy in A Christmas Story. He was so wrapped up. And I think there's 8 babies in the baby house right now. And then they have some ladies who take care of them all the time. But it just broke my heart that someone just didn't want them. Broke my heart. The next thing we know, it's like beautiful, hot, whatever, and then bam, thunderstorm out of nowhere, and it is heavy rains. And I thought it was kind of funny because the song Africa by Toto has become like my song for this whole trip. So of course I did a TikTok, and I did it to the song Africa, and I was videoing the rains falling. It was kind of fun because I'm a dork. But that was crazy. I'm looking to see because there was something I wanted to remind. Okay. So that evening we had games and activities with the kids that were 11 and older, and we got into this like really big circle, and it was the kids and some of the house dads were there, and Saul's like, oh, we're gonna play this game, and it was like a math game, and whenever you said 3, if you ever said 3 or it was a number divided by 3, you had to say freeze, and if it was a 5 or a number divided by 5, you had to say boss, and then if it was a number that could be done by both, you had to say freeze boss. I told Nick, I'm like, I came on a mission trip not to do math. Come on. So I made it okay far, but Jared ended up winning. Jared was feeling better, but he ended up winning that one. And then we did another one where you had to count, and whenever you came to like a number that was 7 or divided by 7, you changed the direction. So that one I didn't have to do math. But what was funny is that as you messed up, Saul would grab us and like throw us into the center, and everyone was just laughing and having such a good time, and it was so funny when Saul would do that. We had sang like a bunch of songs also. It was Saul with his guitar, and that was just so much fun. Then we got done and we made these cross necklaces with the kids, and that was a lot of fun. They seemed to really enjoy it. We broke up into groups. The next day, us girls went into the baby home, and we like wiped down all the walls, and then we put these cute like decals up on the walls that were like Noah's Ark theme or animal theme, and it was just so precious, and it really livened up the room. But then it was fun because we kind of got to play with the babies while we were in there too. Cecilia was able to come out, and she was feeling much better, and she sat with the baby and like took pictures, and we didn't want her to do too much. But while we were doing that, the guys went over into what's called the attic, which is where we were having all the big classrooms, and they started to paint that room. And then after we finished with the baby room, we went into this counseling room, and we went ahead and wiped down those walls, and then put more decals that had like a big Bible verse and a bunch of dots, and it was a lot of fun. We just wanted to make it a more inviting place for them, and so the kids could open up a little bit more and feel at home. And then we went on a farm tour, and that was so much fun. Actually, I think we did the farm tour and then we did the painting. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I know we did it. I think we did the farm tour first because it was supposed to rain later in the day. But it's really neat because Stand By Me is really self-sustained. They have their own big water filtering center. We still drank bottles of water and other filtered water. And then they went in and they had like animals, like all kinds of cows. There was a new cow that I've never heard of. It's like a brown and white dotted. I think it's Ayrshire. I don't remember, but having been a dairy major, I was kind of surprised I didn't know about that cow. And then they got to see the calves and then some goats. And it was great because when Cross City was there last year, a cow was being born, and they said that they were going to name it Cross City. And so uh, I don't know what happened with that, but I know Nick and Maddie were asking about it, and they went ahead and got a tag and wrote Cross City on it and let Maddie tag the cow that they were pretty sure was the Cross City cow. Could have been whatever, but that was neat. And then we went and we walked down to another spot where it was like all their crops, corn, beans, potatoes, and then Emily's favorite was avocados. And they had these avocados that were like huge. If you look, I think I posted a picture of her holding the avocado. So there's this avocado that's indigenous to Africa, and then there was a Hass, and I mean it was just amazing the difference in sizes. But that was really cool. And then we walked and went up by this rock and oversaw this like beautiful flowing river that you could hear from our rooms. But I guess in the summer it dries up and there's nothing. So we were pretty lucky that we got to see that. That night we went into another room, not the attic. We went into the room where we had our orientation, and we were going to do a craft with the little kids and some of the house parents, and Nick and Saul were singing and doing all the things, and they had sang God, You're So Good in Swahili, and it was just so beautiful because I knew what song they were because I knew the tempo and the words, and I could feel it. And again, it was just really neat to feel the Holy Spirit moving in something I didn't even know. And one thing that was super cool was Saul asked if anyone wanted to open in prayer. And the little guy who played God in our kinder class walks up into the center of like this big circle and like hits his knees, puts his hands together, and then gives like a prayer that like is pastor worthy. He gave the best prayer, and it was just phenomenal. It brought people to tears, and it was just adorable that this little kid had so much faith in God and so much love. It was amazing. Then we did the craft. We got crosses, like paper crosses, and they could color in. It kind of made it look like a stained glass window. And then we had crosses where if you took a little like stick, you could scrape off the black and then color came through. But it was fun because a lot of us just laid on the ground and was coloring with the kids, and meanwhile Nick and Saul are singing, and we're all kind of singing along with them while it's going on. It was a lot of fun. Again, so much joy. The kids were just so happy. And across from me I could see one of the house moms, and she was just beautiful, and I could see that it was like an inside and an outside beauty. And I went up to her and I spoke with her, and her name was Maximilia, and she is a house mom, and I believe she said she has either 19 or 16 kids in her house. And of those kids, only 2 are her biologicals, and her husband is in the house also, but he wasn't there because he was at the house taking care of the other kids while she was there with the younger kids. And it ended up that the kid that prayed was her son, her biological son named Gabriel, and it was just super sweet. She had said she had a love for kids, and she had helped at other places, and it was just like God kept moving her from place to place to place until he was ready to put her here to love on these kids. And so it was really neat to talk to her and then pray over her. Like I said, Cecilia was better. Jared was off and on sick this whole time, but he was powering through. Then day 10 came, which is our last day in Kenya, and Stand By Me helps the parents of kids that go to school there, because not all of them live on the campus. Some of them, the families pay for them to go, but they also have an empowerment program, and we had all the ladies come, and they were doing like their business stuff in Swahili, so we couldn't really understand what was going on. But it ends up that one of the ladies there is a 4 times great grandma to one of the kids that's attending Stand By Me, and it was just wow. But I saw them giving money, and what they do is they work, they get their money, and then they give some of the money to the Stand By Me people to one act as a savings for them. And then another time they give money, and then that goes into like a kitty where if one of the other ladies gets sick, they can borrow the money, or if they need to better their job. Like the one lady is a tailor, so if she needed to buy more clothes, she could come and get a loan for that money, get more clothes, and then pay it back with no interest. So it was really neat how they really helped take care of them. After the meeting, we went over into just off the street from where Stand By Me was after that long drive, and we got to see 3 businesses that were part of the Stand By Me. The lady that was doing the tailoring, another lady that does hair, and then one that was selling like dried goods. That was really neat to see how Stand By Me not only takes care of the kids, but takes care of the parents and tries to help better all of them as well. So that was pretty neat. That morning, Maddie was sick, Suzanne was sick, Emily was sick, and Wendy was sick. It was not good. By like the day before, I was feeling fine. I was back to being chipper and all the things. You could just tell, you could hear the nasally in my mouth, my nose. But another God thing that happened was they gave us a mission journal that we have, that we needed to fill out in the morning and the evening, and then we debriefed in the evening and talked about like things that we had written down. Well, as soon as I applied for Kenya and found that I got it, I had bought my own personalized journal and had been journaling like in depth, and I took it with me, and sadly I lost it. I was sitting on one of the chairs and I thought I left it there, but when I came back I couldn't find it. We asked around, and it was back to the same thing with my phone, where I was becoming obsessed with it because I didn't want to leave it behind. But then again, I felt God saying, just let it go. Let it go. And Wendy and Wendolyn or someone else had said, yeah, well, just think of it, Vashi, that if it's left behind, someone's going to find it, and they're going to see all the way God was working in you and working through this to get you here, and maybe that'll help bring people to God. And so I was like, you're right. So it was time to go, and I was all packed up, and I was sitting on the chair, and I was talking to, I think, Deborah, and I just so happened to have my hand like between the cushions, and I had searched here like 3-4 times, but I felt something different, and I could feel pages, and I looked, and the book had just slid down just right where you couldn't really see it or feel it, and I retrieved it, and I was like, God, yet again, here I'm freaking out about something. You tell me to let it go, and you take care of it. It was just amazing. So we head off to the airport, and while we're at the airport, we're having dinner, and Kevin, so originally the mission trip was bought for 13 of us to go. So Nick had bought the tickets, the airline tickets, like in bulk. Well, Suzanne and Kevin ended up coming on in the end, and so when we added their tickets, they weren't part of the bulk thing, so they were kind of by themselves. Still with us, still airlines, same everything. Well, while we were at dinner, Kevin gets a text message saying that his flight was canceled, and he shows it to Nick, and Nick's like, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it, we'll figure it out, we'll get you home, blah, blah, blah. And a couple minutes later, the next thing you know, Nick's cell phone goes off, and our flight got canceled because we were with them. So it was stress fest, because we couldn't get on another flight. There was not another flight leaving Kenya until the same time the next night. So that would have meant hotel. I mean, it was just crazy. So Nick was on the phone with our travel agent trying to figure it out. And then at one point, I have a photo of Nick. He's standing there and he has Kevin on one phone and the travel agent on another. And then at one point, he puts like the phones together so that they can talk to each other. It was stressful. We started asking for prayer. We started praying. And what ended up happening was we ended up getting split into 3 groups. Kevin and Suzanne went to Dubai. Nick, Hallie, Shane, his mom, Emily, and his dad, Owen, his mom, Emily, and his dad, Shane, they all ended up getting routed to Amsterdam. And then Maddie, Jared, Leonard, Wendy, Deborah, Wendell, and Cecilia and I got funneled into Saudi Arabia. I was freaking out because they don't like us. I'm scared, not gonna lie. But I also knew I was in God's hands, so it was like a weird kind of thing. I was uneasy. We get on the airplane, and all of a sudden, there's like an announcement, and they're doing this whole big prayer to Allah. And I just was not having it, and Maddie and I like covered our ears, and I just started praying to God for the safe flight. I just didn't want to hear any of that. And then we take off, and then the stewardess and stewards come by with like these aerosol cans, and they're just walking up and down. And I think the little announcement had said that they were doing it to purify the air. Okay, it was still a little scary because that's never happened on any of our flights. But I tell you what, the stewards and stewardesses were like top notch. The airplane's super clean, super nice, a little roomier seats. The movie thing was better. It was just top notch. So then we get to Saudi Arabia, and we're coming off, and they're going over into our next little area, and we notice that all those who are from there, they were having them go through this one spot, and these ladies were giving them medicine, to which we found out, or we think was antibiotics, for when they got off the plane. But people like us were escorted another way. We were not given that, which was fine because I wouldn't have taken it anyways because I don't know what it is. But we went and sat down, and it was different because we saw a lot of the ladies that were like full covered, where all you saw were their eyes, and that was really uneasy. But it was fine. But when before we got there, I realized I was wearing, it said Cross City Christian Church, and I'm like, I'm not afraid of my religion. I'm not embarrassed of my religion, and I will stand up for my God. But I didn't want to just flaunt it either. So I'm like, I'll put on my jacket, even though I'm like dying of heat. I'll put on my jacket. Well, I had made a jacket. I put it on. It says like Kenya Mission Trip. It has a cross, and then it has Acts on the back. And I was like, well, you know what? If it's my time to go, it's my time. God's got me. But it ended up being fine. Everyone was fine in the airport. There was no problems. We leave hour and a half later to head to Germany, and our first flight was like 6 hours, and the next flight was going to be 5 hours, so it took us a little bit longer than it should have if we had a straight flight, but that's neither here nor there. But we get on the second flight, and again, like all of a sudden the mist is coming out of like the top of the plane, like where the luggage is, and it's like so heavy that it's like foggy everywhere. It was crazy. But again, the staff was super awesome. They actually came by and gave us like a little baggie, and in the baggie was a pair of socks, earplugs, and like an eye thingy, and like an eye mask, and then a toothbrush and toothpaste. So nice. And again, they all were super kind. So we all ended up meeting up in Germany within about 2 hours of each other. So we got our rooms, got showered, got relaxed, met up, and went Ramenburg, I think is the name of the city. We had flown into Frankfurt, but we went over there, and that was super nice. It was different because it wasn't Nairobi, but it was really nice. We went and had like a really lovely dinner. I had a brunch schnitzel, which was so delicious. I needed to stop eating, but it was so good. It had like grilled onions and cheese and then we walked over, like just like literally across the street was a bridge that had locks on it, like in Paris. So that was kind of neat to see that. We took some photos, did some shopping, and then came back to the hotel, got some rest, and then got up in the morning and we actually went to the airport 3 hours early instead of the 2.5 that we were gonna do, and it was crazy busy. The airline decided that they weren't going to give everyone seats, even though we had bought our things months in advance. They put some of us on standby. Crazy. Again, lots of prayers. God worked it out where Nick was able to get up to the front stand and get the guys that were on standby, get them seats. And so it all just worked out well. Again, total God everywhere on this mission trip, taking care of us. Then we made it to San Francisco and had a little bit of a layover. Not too much, but we all went and ate and made it back, and then finished our flight home to Fresno, and it was uneventful, and it was just really nice to get home and be with our family. So as I wrap up, an hour and 11 minutes later, if you're still with me, I applaud you. But it was a great mission trip because I learned more to give my worries to God, and that He was going to take care of me. I already did anyways. But there was like 2 big things that really just, put the nail in the coffin. The whipped topping on the ice cream, that made me really realize that I needed to give it to God more and not stress out right away. But then also just to pray and then just sit and talk and just be quiet and see if you can hear God's voice right then. And a lot of my teammates felt the sadness of the slums and the situations we were in, and I feel bad because I didn't have that sadness, that heavy sadness within me. I think that's because I was seeing the joy, and by seeing the joy, it brought me joy. And so I saw the sadness and I see the whole sadness of the situation, but I saw joy, and I saw that you can choose to have joy. You can have God in your life and have joy in the worst of situations. So anything that's going to happen to us here in America, it's nothing compared to there. And it's horrific. Not horrific, but whatever happens to us, it happens, and it is big to us, and that is fine. I'm not saying that it's better than what happens to them, because it's all bad. But it showed me that even in the bad, to find joy. If those kids could find joy in the slums, I can find joy here in my car not working, or so I think those are the biggest takeaways I got. I didn't feel led to go on a mission trip. I was like, no, I'm never going on a mission trip. I'll serve locally. I don't need to go far away. And His little feet came a year ago, and God's like, you're going to Kenya? And I'm like, no, yeah, I'm going. And I had asked Nick, hey Nick, do you have anything going to Kenya? And he had said no, but they were going to start they were going to have like a scouting group go over, and that was the first group that went, but we were the first real like mission trip that wasn't a scouting trip. And that whole thing was amazing, how God even made that work, because I do invitation, and Scott and I leave right away. We don't listen to the announcements sometimes. And so I didn't hear the announcements of the mission trip. Someone just barely in passing said something, and then I was kind of second guessing it, and then I went online and I saw the app application, and then I was like, okay, I'll come back to it. But when I came back, it was gone. And so I reached out to Nick, and I'm like, Nick, can I still get in on this? And so they had 2 like orientation meetings, and I happened to go, just get there in time to go to the second orientation meeting. And then everything just fell into place. I will tell you that when I started, I had sent out like a grip ton of text messages and hard copy letters asking for help financially, and I did not get hardly any responses, and I was freaking out. And I felt God say, you know what, if you do what I tell you, I'm going to take care of you. And sure enough, like a month later, funds were coming in, and I had done my Easter egg fundraiser, which was so phenomenal. But it went so far as to, even when we were walking off stage after we were prayed, someone came up and they're like, Vashi, here's the money I said I was going to give to you. And then another person, hey Vash, here's some money I wanted you to have. I was fully funded by that point, but they still took care of me, and the money went towards stuff that I had to pay for on my own. But it's just amazing. I just saw God show up in so many ways. So if you want to go on a mission trip and you feel like you're being called, but you're scared to death because of what's going to happen when you're there, or are you going to raise the money, I can tell you God's going to take care of you. He totally will take care of you. He took care of me financially above and beyond the $3,500 we had to raise. He took care of us through all the airline craziness. He took care of our whole team while we were sick. I mean, Nick said that he's never had so many people get sick on a trip and have airline problems like that. So I mean, we went through the gauntlet, and God was there every single step of the way. So do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close in a prayer, and I'm going to ask you to join in with me. And this is what I'm asking you to pray for Kenya and these poor kiddos. So Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for allowing me to go on this trip and to be back home and to share my experience with people. I pray, God, that you be with the youth in Nairobi and just work with the government so that they will help the kids and not make it harder for them to have a better life. Just let the kids have the fortitude to continue to stand up for their rights, and let the government see that what they're doing is wrong and for them to change. And then, Lord, for the kids in Eldoret and throughout Kenya, where the Department of Child Services has decided that they're no longer going to have these shelters, I pray, Lord, that thought gets overturned, because these babies, these kids need to grow up somewhere where they're being loved and they feel you, God. So I just ask these things in your name. I thank you again for all the people who helped me get here in prayer, in gifts, and mostly, God, I thank you for being with us the entire way and taking care of me and showing me you and how much you love us all the way through. I thank you, God. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being with me. Gosh, I took an hour and 18 minutes. But thank you. And call me, text me, put any comments down here if you have any other questions. And I look forward to seeing you. Bye.